Hey everyone. You know, you might be wondering why I'm wearing this. Well, it's quite simple. You see, even though, and I want to explain this and get this out of the way, even though I am and always will be, because I have been since almost the day I was born, and I always will be. I have been, am, and always will be an Oakland A's and San Francisco Giants fan. When I lived in Kansas from 1994 to 2007, I became a fan of two other teams, the St. Louis Cardinals and the Kansas City Royals. Why? Well, because obviously when you live in the Midwest, the closest thing to any kind of Major League sports team are the teams in those regions. Now, even though I became a fan of theirs, I always was still a fan of Oakland and San Francisco and Kansas City, Oakland and San Francisco, always was. And anytime the A's came on over there and anytime the A's played Kansas City, me and my dad would turn it on, or at least I would turn it on and try to watch it. And when they started interleague play around basically about a year or two before I left, and San Francisco's I think was like in one of the first interleague seasons, got there and played Kansas City. I watched it as well. And I remember also one of the first games I went to at Kauffman Stadium in '94, I believe, was Kansas City. Was Oakland at Kansas City. So last night was kind of like a bittersweet moment for me. Last night I saw two teams I've been fans of for a long time. One team I've been a fan of since I was basically born, along with the Giants, and another team that I've grown to become a fan of because of my 13 years in Kansas. And I look at the fact that becoming a fan of the Kansas City Royals, mostly also due to the fact that my dad had always been a Royals fan his entire life. It meant something, in a sense, because here's a team that even when I was out there never got to the playoffs. Even when I was out there, sometimes would have mediocre seasons to very bad, like I can't stand to watch these guys' seasons. I remember a few times I would go to the Kansas City games, and oh my gosh, it would be a decent crowd. But at times you would get there, and a lot of the people involved, well, not a lot of people, but a lot of the stands would still be open. And so there were times, I think, that I saw people, including me and my dad, and me and a group of people at times we would move around because, it was that way. And I went to several Royals games. My dad, with my grandma, we went to several of them. And it was always nice to go to and enjoy, to actually see a Major League team go. And like I said, when the strong possibility, and I don't know why anybody argued this anyway, when the strong possibility of Oakland facing Kansas City in a wild card game was going to happen, like I said, it became a bittersweet moment in a sense, because here was two teams that I'd become a fan of. Like I said, one team that I grew up as a fan of, and one team for 13 years I'd grown as a fan of. So to basically, have to deal with that as a fan was kind of like bittersweet, because I wanted Oakland. I mean, believe it or not, I wanted to get that Oakland-San Francisco World Series 25 years later. I wanted to get that rematch. And I know someday we're going to get it, just not this season. But I was still hoping that was going to be the case. And when Oakland pulled away for a while, for a few innings, I thought, we're just one step away. We are one step away from Oakland, San Francisco, 25 years later. I felt we were one one step away. Or the first, I should say, well, actually one step / first step away from that happening. But unfortunately it didn't. It didn't happen. Kansas City wanted it more. And as much as I love Oakland, and as much as I love San Francisco, and as much as I've been a fan of Oakland for a long time, here's a team that's waited nearly 30 years to get back to the postseason. And now, they are literally, hold on. I don't know who that is. That's LaSalle and Loins. I don't know who that is. Probably some advertisements. But literally, like I said, here I was. Here's a team that for almost 3 decades, going almost 3 decades, had never been to the World Series. We've never been to the postseason in 3 decades. The last time they went, I was 6 years old. Yeah. I was 6 years old. I was 6 years old, so like I said, I was 6 years old, and now here I am at 35 years old. And to know it's almost been, like I said, 30 years, I think it's worth the wait. And I think in a sense the Oakland players know, yeah, we had a great season, but you know what? These guys want it more. Let them have it. And like I said, as much as I wanted to see the Bay Bridge World Series 2, 25 years later, we're probably going to have to wait for it for another season. Now, does that mean we're probably going to get Highway 70 World Series almost 30 years later? Possibility. I mean, like I was trying to say before the phone rang and interrupted me, all Kansas City has to do now is win 7 games to get to the World Series. And the same would have to win 7 games. Same with St. Louis if they want that high 70 rematch again. But what I'm really hoping for, I guess you could say it's a bit of a constellation prize, Kansas City, San Francisco. That's what I'd like to see. I would like to see that. I would love to see Kansas City, San Francisco in the World Series. I would love to see that happen. Because I'm not trying to be mean about this, but if we end up getting Anaheim and Los Angeles, we get Los Angeles against Los Angeles, it's going to be like New York versus New York in the World Series all over again. Not that those World Series weren't good, but come on. It's time for a change. It's time to let those that haven't had the opportunity of postseason play to get that opportunity, who haven't had the opportunity of trying to at least become a dynasty again, have that opportunity. Now I know there's some LA Dodger fans that are going to say, well, LA hasn't had that opportunity in a long time either. I get that. I really do. But Kansas City hasn't been there in 30 years. All the other teams involved have been there in recent years. Kansas City hasn't. And they want it more. Which is why, like I said, even though it's a bittersweet thing for me to see Kansas City go and advance and face Anaheim, and in a sense kind of be bittersweet for me to not see Oakland go because, like I said, I grew up on Oakland. It's better than nothing, And like I said, you spend 13 years like I did, you become a fan of these teams, and you can understand that the wait has been worth it for these fans, for these players, for this franchise. I remember when I lived there and St. Louis was in the World Series against Boston, I think it was, and they won it all. I remember walking past the Uno Chicago that was right next, almost, that was located in the parking lot right next to where I lived. And when they won, people went crazy. People went nuts. The fact is, the time is now for Kansas City to get this opportunity. For Kansas City to be the team. Now I know you're thinking, well, Washington Nationals have never been champions. Well, the Nationals / Expos, yeah, I get it. They want it too. But I think in a more profitable way, Kansas City, San Francisco is the way to go. That's just my opinion. But like I said, it's bittersweet. Because I was happy to see Oakland and Kansas City in the playoffs. And I'll say this. Both teams, I think it's worth repeating, delivered last night. Both teams put on basically an all-time classic. Probably a wild card game ever since the wild card inception into the MLB playoffs happened. Ever since that wild card inception happened, I could say this. No other wild card games ever going to, probably ever has or ever will match up to last night. Unless San Francisco and Pittsburgh do the same thing tonight, it's going to be a hard act to follow. So, to me, I'm happy both teams got in. Yes, I'm kind of saddened that Oakland didn't advance because I know they wanted to face Anaheim again and kind of prove they're the better team in the West. But you know what? Kansas City, they wanted it more, and basically they said, enough's enough. The wait has been long enough. It's our time. So, Oakland had a great season, guys. I thank you as an A's fan. I thank you for a great season. I hope you guys do better next year. And next year we get that Bay Bridge rematch in the World Series. I really do. For Kansas City, I'll tell you this. Because I lived out there for 13 years. My family is behind you as far as the American League goes. Just as they're behind San Francisco as far as the National League goes. And all of us in my family are hoping for a Royals Giants World Series. And you know what? I believe it's going to happen. I really do. And if it doesn't, Kansas City kicks some serious ass. That's all I'm going to say. Thank you all for watching.